Hey, welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you're a returning subscriber. Thank you so much for coming by to hang out with me today. So for today's video, I'm going to be ranking my top 20 eyeshadow palettes of 2020. Now, these were ones I purchased this year, not necessarily ones that came out this year. So I ended up buying like 50 palettes this year, which in all honesty was a lot less than I thought it was going to be, even though that sounds absolutely ridiculous. And it is. But picking out my top 20 out of those 50 was really difficult because I try to take the ranking seriously. I don't want to just grab any 20 palettes and come on here and tell you these are my top 20 when I'm not 100% certain that that's how I feel about it. So that's what we're doing in this video. We're ranking my top 20 palettes of 2020. If that sounds interesting to you and you want to hear what my top 20 palettes were, be sure to keep on watching. So I figured what I would do is instead of just jumping straight into the 20 palettes that were my top favorites for this year, I want to show you guys all of the palettes that I bought this year. I think it's important, as far as context is concerned, to see what I'm up against, to see what I'm comparing my favorites to. So that's what I'm going to do really quickly. I'm going to burp first and then we're going to carry on. I'm going to show you the palettes that didn't make my top 20, and then we'll jump into the ranking. We'll start with the ones that I haven't used. The first one I'm sharing with you is the Sigma Untamed. I picked this one up during the Black Friday sale. Such a beautiful palette. It reminds me a lot of the Anastasia Beverly Hills subculture, just because of the grungy tones. But it's a beautiful palette. I haven't used it yet, haven't had time to use it yet, so that's why it's not in the ranking. Okay, the next palette that I haven't had a chance to use yet is my BH Cosmetics Sweet Shop palette. This is the cherry on top. I love BH Cosmetics Sweet Shop collection. They are absolutely stunning palettes, and I am going to grab more when they drop on the 12th. This video will probably be up after that, so by then, they're probably not going to be available anymore. They are fantastic palettes. Top of the line, affordable, just haven't had a chance to use it yet. So the next palette I'm going to be sharing with you is from the old Blush Tribe. This is the Hasina 2. And I grabbed this because, first of all, look at the color story. But I just haven't used it yet. I think I piddled around with it once. I just have so many palettes that I'm working through. It's just not a priority right now. So I can't rank this. I don't have enough experience with it. The next one I'm going to share with you is the Summer in Saint Tropez by BH Cosmetics. Now, this is another one that I just bought when I bought a bunch of other things, and I just haven't had a chance to use it yet. I have, swirled my fingers in those shimmers, and they're beautiful. Just haven't used it. Alright, the next palette that I want to show you is from Nomad. This is the Studio 54 Multichrome Disco Shadow palette. Now, this is one I haven't used yet because when I got it, I started messing around with these shades here, and they're just so hard pressed in the pan. You really have to dig to get any kind of color payoff, and it's just a huge pet peeve of mine, having to scrape the top layer of a shadow off just to get it to work, and I tried that, and I still have trouble with it. It's just a really kind of dense, I don't know. I just wasn't very thrilled to use this, so I haven't used it yet, can't rank it. The next one in here that I haven't used is the Dia y Noche Tri-Element 15 Pigment Palette from JCat Beauty. Dang, that's a mouthful. This is really beautiful. A bunch of really bright, rainbow type of colors in here. I just haven't used it yet. Too many palettes. Can't wait to try it, though. Okay, the next palette that I want to share with you is the ColourPop Menage a Moi. And it's part of their holiday collection. And I just haven't had a chance to use it yet. I'm just tossing them to the side over here. I really hope I'm not breaking things. Okay, so this next one might shock you guys a little bit. I was so ecstatic to get the Glamlight Cake palette. It's a really beautiful palette. Very colorful. It's very good quality. Glamlight has amazing shimmers, really pigmented mattes. I just haven't had time to use it yet. Hasn't been a priority. Snack break. You guys ever eat butter on crackers? We eat buttered bread. This isn't much different. Buttered crackers. Heart attack on a cracker. Alright, the next palette that I'm going to share with you is crazy that I haven't gotten around to really using this one. This is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Amrezy palette. And this has been out quite a while. And I think I've used like 1 or 2 shades out of here, but I haven't actually like fully played with this palette. I don't know what the hell's wrong with me. Just too much makeup, I guess. The next palette I'm going to share with you is one that my daughter bought me for my birthday. This is the LA Colors Rose palette. I mean, so sweet of her to think about me and get me something that she thought I would like. I'm not really big on drugstore palettes, but you bet your ass I'm going to use this one. So, I just haven't used it yet, so I can't rank it. Okay, and then last but not least for the palettes that I haven't tried yet is the Queen palette from Eloise. I actually got this as like a present for rejoining BoxyCharm. I figured a free palette, sure, I'll take it. And if I don't want it or I don't like it, I can always give it to my daughter. I'm sure she would enjoy it. So I just haven't used it yet. So now we're jumping into the palettes that I've tried but didn't make the cut. So the first 2 that I have are the Pure and Trolls World Tour palettes. I used to have 3 of these. I gave 1 of them to my niece. And yeah, the shimmers in these are fantastic, but the mattes suck. They're powdery. They're just not good. That's why it's not making the cut. Next up is the Boudoir Noir. This is from ColourPop. This is another one of their holiday releases for this year. And I don't know what it is with ColourPop and being inconsistent, but their formulas are just inconsistent. And it's not a terrible palette, but it definitely didn't make my top 20. All right, next up in here is the Kylie and Grinch palette, which if you watched my first impression on this palette, you know exactly how I feel about it. When you're spending that kind of money for a palette, it's disappointing when it's patchy, when the shimmers are not, shimmery and foiled and whatnot, when they're hard pressed in the pan. This was just not a good experience for me. That's why it didn't make the top 20. All right, next up in here is the Glamlight Street Taco palette. And the reason why this one didn't make the cut is just, it's good, but there's nothing so fantastic about this that made me want to like jump back into it after I did my initial first impression of this. I used it a couple times since then. It's got some really good shimmers in it. And you know what? The mattes aren't awful, but it definitely is not like top 20 material. Then we have a trio of palettes from Cara Beauty. The formulas are just, they're not my favorite. We'll just put it that way. So this is Orange Pop. We have Purple Haze. And then we got Girl Scout. So they're really beautiful color stories. The formula is just not fantastic, in my opinion. But I'm very critical, so. Alright, and then we have the Huda Beauty Pastel Lilac palette. And the reason why this one doesn't make the cut is because all of the shimmer shades in here are like topper shades. Which, when you have light mattes anyway, to have a bunch of topper shades for the only shimmers or glitters in here, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, so I don't ever use it. Oh, I didn't use this one yet. The Juvia's Place Nubian Glow. This was supposed to go in the pile of ones that I hadn't used. Beautiful color story, beautiful palette. Can't rank it. Then we have the Dose of Colors Friendcation. I think this is a beautiful palette. It's got a lot of really pretty shades in here. I just don't ever reach for it. I don't know why, because I think that the shadows are really good. I don't know why I don't reach for it. Then we have the Melt Cosmetics She's in Parties palette. I also did a first impression on this one. And the reason why this is not in my top ranking is because if you cover up these shades, there's just not enough variation. There's not enough going on in this palette that would make me reach for it like over and over and over again. It's one of those types of palettes where if you have that grungy, like sultry plum type of look in mind, then this is perfect for that. But when you have 8 shades in a palette and 5 of them are so close in tone, I just feel like, I don't know, especially for the price point, it just wasn't my absolute favorite because of that. The quality's fantastic, and my looks turned out really pretty, I thought, in my opinion. I just didn't like the fact that there wasn't enough variation in the shades. Okay, next up in here is the Kaleidos Futurism number 3, Astro Pink. I love their packaging on these palettes. And this is by no means a bad palette, but we're starting to get down to where it's like, okay, I had to really pick and choose what was going in this top 20. And this one just didn't make the cut. It's stunning. The formulas are really nice. The shimmers are shimmery and sparkly, and the mattes are creamy. So it's nothing formula-wise at all. It's a color story that I don't gravitate towards that often. So that's why it didn't make the cut. Then we have the Alter Ego Aurora palette. This one was supposed to be a dupe for the Natasha Denona Sunset, I think. And again, not a bad palette, decent formula. I enjoyed the looks that I created with it. It's just not my top 20. All right, next up is the Tati Beauty Volume Number 1 palette. This one is not bad formula-wise. It's got some really nice formulas in here, especially the mattes. They're super creamy. They blend well. They look nice on the lids. But when I look at this palette, there's nothing about this that, like, makes me jump into this over other palettes that I have. So, because of that, it didn't get ranked. Next up is the Jaclyn Hill palette Volume Number 2. And that's this monster. And this is a really beautiful palette. Got a lot of summery type of tones in here, but a lot of these tones are so close to each other, which is the case for most Morphe palettes. You're going to find at least a couple duplicates. And it's just not the type of colors that I reach into all the time. Didn't rank it. Okay, these next three kind of pain me that I didn't rank these, but I had to be really picky and choosy, and I don't use these as much as I did when I did my last palette ranking video, so that's why they didn't make it in my top 20 this time. I'm talking about the ABH Norvina collection. I have number 3, I have number 4, and I have number 1. Alright, let's jump into this ranking. So, coming in at number 20 is the Kaleidos Futurism number 1. This is their Sci-Fi Green. Again, with the packaging. Love the packaging on these palettes. And then that's what the color story is. So if you know my makeup taste at all, you probably know I love grungy greens. This is like my ideal dream color story. But the reason why I'm ranking this at number 20 is because when I swatched out these two greens here and then these two shimmers down here, they are so close in tone that when you put them on the eyes, you can't really see that much of a difference. I mean, a little bit. But to somebody that doesn't know any better, they probably wouldn't even be able to tell the difference. It's a gorgeous palette, and, you know, just as a little preface here, this was really difficult ranking these palettes, like from least favorite to most favorite, because I love all of these palettes, and I would be very upset if I lost or had to get rid of any of them. So just know that even if it's ranked number 20, I still really enjoy this palette, and I would recommend it to you guys. So the quality's amazing, the shimmers, the mattes, fantastic palette, but it's coming in at number 20. Okay, the next palette on this list, coming in at number 19, is the Juvia's Place Nubian Royal. This is one that I did a video with, and I think it's a really beautiful palette. I really like the shimmers in here, especially this one. Stunning, stunning shimmer shade. It does have a pressed glitter in here, which is what kind of knocked it back a few pegs for me, just because it's only got 6 shades in here. And I really don't use pressed glitters that often because I'm terrified I'm going to get it in my eyes. I wear contacts. If it ends up in my eyes, it could be detrimental to my eyesight. So I really enjoyed the looks that I've made with this, but it's just not one of those palettes where, I don't know, it's just not like my all-time favorite. So that's why it's coming in at number 19. Okay, the next one on this list, coming in at number 18, is the Juvia's Place Wahala palette. I did a dedicated video to this quite a while ago when it first came out. Look at the colors in here. Such beautiful colors. We've got multi-chromes up top. This is a multi-chrome. This is a multi-chrome. It's just got some really pretty duochromes. You've also got a couple of pressed glitters in here. Actually 3. But it's got some really beautiful shades. The mattes are creamy and blendable. The shimmer shades are nice and foiled and smooth. The only thing that's kind of like a drawback for me and why I didn't rank it higher up in this list is because it's a very busy palette. Like when you look at this, I have a hard time, like when I look at this, I'm like, okay, what color story am I going to come up with for the eyes? And I stare at it and I get overwhelmed by it because there's so much going on in this palette. Doesn't mean I don't like it. Doesn't mean it's not beautiful. I do love this palette. I just had to rank it somewhere. It's ranking number 18. Alright, you guys might be surprised to see number 17. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Fire Rose. Now, before you guys say anything, I love this palette. This is such a beautiful palette. The quality on this is next level amazing. I think I created a really beautiful look when I did my first impression on this palette. This is not saying I don't like this palette, because I do. I love this palette, and I wouldn't return it if I could. I just really enjoy it. However, this is one of those palettes where it's like, okay, you've got 4 shades in here, and 3 of them are shimmers. So how many looks are you really going to be able to get out of this palette? I mean, honestly, I wouldn't imagine that many. So, and especially for somebody like me that's not extremely creative with eyeshadow, not as much as what some people can be anyway. So that's why it's falling at number 17, because it's only got 4 shades and only 1 of them are matte, which makes coming up with more than just a couple of looks really difficult. But that's why it's a quad. It's not supposed to be a super versatile palette, you know what I mean? But quads are not my favorite. Had to have this though, and I do really love it. It's just ranking number 17. Alright, next up in here, ranking at number 16, is the Natasha Denona Peak palette. Now this is a palette that was created for BoxyCharm, and it is such a beautiful palette. I've used it a couple times now. The mattes are those cream to matte formulas, so they're super blendable. I feel like you can come up with quite a few looks with this, because you can go a few different ways. You could do like more of a muted coral look with a shimmer. You could do more of like a deeper look with a matte. You can do the corally orange look with a shimmer. Like, there's quite a few looks you can come up with this palette, and the quality of this is next level amazing. So that's why this one's ranking at number 16. Okay, coming in at number 15 is the Sigma Enchanted palette. I wanted this palette for so long, and then they did like 40% off on their website, and I was like, now's the time. So this is what the inside looks like. Such a beautiful palette. It's got some really stunning shimmers in here. The mattes are beautiful. They blend easily. The only reason why this is ranking number 15 and not higher up on my list is because the shimmers in here aren't the type of shimmers that I'm accustomed to. The type of shimmers that I like are more smooth in texture, and they're more foiled looking, and just more, I don't want to say wet, but more of a solid consistency. And the shimmers in this palette are more of like a dry type of shimmery formula. I don't know how to explain it, but they're not awful by any means. This is a very beautiful palette. I love that I have it, and you know, I'm excited to keep using it in the future, because this is new to me, but I have used it a couple times and I love it. That's why it's ranking number 15. Alright, coming in at number 14 is the Kaleidos Escape Pod palette. This is a palette that I was so excited to get, and I'm still excited to have it. I don't use it as much as I thought I was going to use it, but it is such a beautiful palette. Look how pretty these colors are. We've got a really vibrant blue. Some of these shadows are like this pink is like a neon shade. The shimmers in the middle are what really get me. They're so pretty. Kaleidos is just well known for their formula. They have such a great formula, and I do love this palette. It would have ranked higher, but I don't know, like when I look at this, I have a hard time coming up with something cohesive. And it's probably just me, because I struggle with stuff like that, but it is a beautiful palette. I'm glad I have it. That's why it's ranking number 14. Well, we have a lot of Kaleidos in this top 20. That just shows you how much I love the brand. Coming in at number 13 is the Electro Turquoise palette from Kaleidos. And there's a cat hair accompanying it. Ew, that's gross. Again, such a beautiful palette. Still some cat hair. Like, look how pretty this is. The looks that I've created with this, I really loved. The shimmers in here, I haven't swatched any shimmers yet, but like, look how beautiful this is. They are so stunning. The mattes blend very well. This white shimmer here, or silver, whatever you want to call it, it's just an all-around beautiful palette. Again, I love the looks that I've created with it. Super happy to have this in my collection, and, you know, I would be upset if I lost it or if I had to give it up, so that's why this is coming in at number 13. Okay, coming in at number 12 is the new Raw Beauty Christie and ColourPop collab. This is called At Forest Sight, and that's what it looks like on the inside there. This is a really beautiful palette. I like the fact that it's got really grungy shades down here that you can play with. It's got more like neutral tones up top. You can go a lot of different ways with this palette. It's very versatile, and I think that's why I like this one as much as I do. The only thing I don't like about this is that some of the shades don't build well upon each other. ColourPop has been really inconsistent lately. Well, for a while now, honestly. And I don't know, some of their mattes are fantastic, and then other ones, they don't want to layer on each other, they don't want to blend into each other, they fluff away when you try to blend into each other. I did a look with this in another video. You guys will be seeing that soon. And when I was trying to layer on the two shades, it started to blend away. So it's not a bad palette by any means. It is good. And I really love the color selection in here. I think Christy did a fantastic job on this palette. And I'm extremely happy to have it. Even if, and I'm just being honest, even if the quality was questionable, the fact that this is a collab between ColourPop and Raw Beauty Christy is what truly has my heart. I've been watching Christy for a while now. She's one of my favorite YouTubers. She is so down to earth and real. She's been wanting a collab with ColourPop for a long time, and because she's finally got it, she's been having like the best year of any human known to mankind. So I love that for her, and I had to grab this palette because of that. It's just an added bonus that I like the color story. Okay, coming in at number 11 is the Glamlite Ice Cream Dream Palette. Now, this is one that I really enjoy because, first of all, Glamlite's shimmer formula, which I've already told you, is amazing. It's so good. It's so shimmery and just smooth. And it's got some really gorgeous, like, pastel shades. And, I don't know, there's a lot going on in this little palette. I actually filmed a first impression with this, and I did a bunch of looks, and half of my video wasn't usable because of the audio. So I never did get to upload my video with this. If I'm able to figure out how to fix that audio, I'll try to upload my video with this in the future, but I really enjoy this palette. And I think, the packaging is really cute. It's got like little sprinkles in there. Like, look how cute that is. But the formula is where it's at, so that's why this is number 11. Okay, now we're getting into the top 10. So, coming in at number 10 is the Pat McGrath Labs Divine Rose 2 palette. Now, you guys might be surprised to see this ranking at number 10 and not lower down on my list, or higher up on my list, or however you want to put it. The reason why I didn't rank this like in my top 5, or I don't know, the reason why it's coming in at number 10, while I love this color story, it's so beautiful, the formulas in here are next level, like I absolutely love this palette, I really do, but the reason why this is ranking number 10 is because, first of all, there's only 2 mattes in here, and you've got an ass ton of shimmers and special shades, which is fine, I can make it work, but I almost have to dip into another palette if I want to come up with a bunch of different eye looks using this palette, so it's not really a standalone for me, and that's just me. If you have this palette and you're able to create a bunch of different eye looks with just those 2 mattes, I'm happy for you, but I struggle with it. So I love this palette. I wouldn't get rid of it. I wouldn't return it if I could, but it's coming in at number 10. All right, making its way down the list on number 9 is the Natasha Denona Love Palette. So this is one that I've created quite a few looks with, and I've loved every single look that I've created with this. I love the color story. I like that it's got some reds and pinks, and we've got purples. We've got really beautiful duochromes and sparkly shades and shimmers. This just has every type of shadow that I would be looking for. And again, it performs well. It's Natasha Denona, and I just love it. So, number 9. Okay, coming in at number 8 is the BH Cosmetics Blueberry Muffin Palette. I did a look with this in one of my recent videos. I did a try-on haul, and I was truly impressed with the quality of these shadows. BH Cosmetics has taken 2020 by storm. They've surprised a lot of people, especially after the Zodiac fiasco. I think they really needed to make a comeback, and boy did they ever. I love the color story. It's a bunch of cooler toned purples and periwinkles and blues, and you've got some peach tones and some shimmers in here. This is like your perfect winter palette. It's beautiful. Okay, coming in at number 7, this is a palette that's newer to me. I've used it a couple times now, and I really, really like it. Like, enough to put it in at number 7. This is the Lunar Beauty Moon Spell Palette. This is the outside packaging. It looks like a book. It slides out. I don't typically keep like the outer cartons to eyeshadow palettes, but for this one, I had to. I mean, look how cute this is. But the packaging on the palette itself It looks like a little spell book. Like, look at the detail on this. When I'm thinking about ranking, I'm thinking about everything. Quality, packaging, value for your money, all that stuff. This is just such a beautiful palette inside and out. The inside colors, you can do something pink, purple, green, neutral. I just love this. I really do. And the looks that I created with this, I really enjoyed. So that's why this is ranking number 7. Okay, coming in at number 6 is the BH Cosmetics Pistachio Palette. I also did a video with this one. First of all, the color story itself is, again, me wrapped up into a palette. But the quality on these shadows legitimately blew my mind when I did my first impression video of this. I'll link it above so you guys can go check it out if you're interested in seeing my reaction of this, but I just couldn't believe that this was BH Cosmetics. The shimmers are shimmery and foiled looking. The mattes blend very well. They're pigmented. They're not patchy. Just stunning palettes. The fact that they're only $18 a piece. Like, you cannot go wrong with the Sweet Shop palettes from, I almost said ColourPop, from BH Cosmetics. BH Cosmetics quality has far surpassed ColourPop, in my opinion. And they're about the same price point, so I would go with BH Cosmetics. That's why this is coming in at number 6. Alright, we're into my top 5. So the way I tried to look at this with my top 5 is, number 1, can I live without it? Or, like, if I could only keep 5 palettes in my collection from this year, what would they have been? And I wanted to make sure I had some neutrals, I had colorful palettes, I had palettes just in general that I would be happy with. If my house were burning up in flames and I could only grab 5, which I'm sure makeup would be the last thing on my mind if my house was burning up in flames, but just saying, hypothetically speaking, if I could only grab 5 palettes, what would it be? And that's why I narrowed it down to these palettes. So coming in at number 5 is the Be Perfect Cosmetics Carnival 3 Love Tahiti palette. So this one is a monster of a palette. I mean, this mug is huge, but look at all the colors in here. This has every single color under the rainbow in here. I mean, you can create so many looks with this palette. The formula is phenomenal. I will say that some of the shimmers in here are not my favorite. They're a little hard pressed. Not all of them, a couple of them. But the other shimmers in here are perfectly fine. They're beautiful. But the mattes in this palette is reason enough to grab this one. So that's what I love this one for, is all those beautiful, colorful, stunning matte shades. And I need this in my collection. Okay, you guys might be surprised to see this next one because it is a newer palette to me. But ever since I got it, I have been loving this palette. I've created quite a few looks with it so far, which is surprising because I haven't had it that long. I'm talking about the Lunar Beauty Eternal Eclipse palette. Now, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Manny kills it with the packaging. I love the packaging on this. But the inside is your perfect mix of cool neutrals, warm neutrals, shimmery shades. It's got everything you need in here to create either a really neutral look, a glammed up neutral look, something warm, something cool. This could be a staple. It's going to be a staple in my makeup collection. So that's why I had to pick this one coming in at number 4. It's got everything I need and more in here. So I love this palette. The formula is fantastic. I cannot wait to keep creating looks with this. I'm starting to get tired and loopy, so my voice is starting to get a little raw. If I sound weird, sorry. Coming in at number 3, this might also be a surprise to you guys because of the way my initial video went down. You gotta remember, when people do first impressions on palettes, like, using it just a couple times is really not enough to give a full-on review of something. You really have to play with it more than a handful of times to know how you really feel about something. So, the Pat McGrath Labs Celestial Divinity palette is coming in at number 3 because it is such a stunning palette. The shimmers in here are so beautiful. You've got a bunch of duochromes, like this one down here is stunning. You've got like more foiled shades. You've got just, I'm telling you, the shimmers in this palette are gorgeous. You've only got 3 mattes in here. So that was like the big drawback when I first tested out this palette. I was upset that there weren't more mattes in here. It makes it a little bit difficult to come up with a cohesive look when you've got a pink, a purple, and like a dark brick red shade. So regardless, I don't have to use this as a standalone. I've got plenty of palettes I can pull in to use with it. I love this palette. I wouldn't have it any other way. I had to rank it in at least the top 5, and when I compared it to the BH Pistachio and the Eternal Eclipse, I knew that this had to rank at number 3. We're at the top 2. Do you think you know what they might be? Have you been on my channel for a while? Do you know what palettes I bought this year? I'll give you a hint. They're bougie palettes. They're both from the same brand. Do you think you know? Coming in at number 2 is the Natasha Denona Glam palette. I never thought I would be this excited about a cool-toned neutral palette, honestly. But you know what? When it comes to like everyday makeup for me, I'm not typically wearing the bright eyeshadow. I'm not typically wearing greens and purples. Purples more so than greens. But I'm usually wearing something neutral, especially if I'm going to work. So I knew it was imperative for my top 5 to have at least one really solid neutral palette. So that's one of the reasons why I picked this palette, the Glam. But besides that, the formula is fantastic. The colors that she picked out on here play very nicely with each other. There's enough variation in here to where I can create a lot of different looks. It's easy. When I look at this, it's not hard for me to come up with a color story for my eyes. I can see something instantly. So that's why this is ranking number 2. So I told you the next one's from the same brand. This is the Natasha Denona Bronze palette coming in at number 1. And the reason why I rank this number 1, I mean, besides the fact that it's stunning, it is such a beautiful, warm-toned palette. But the reason why I'm ranking it number 1 is because out of all the palettes I own, this is probably the one that I got the most use out of this year, which my palette collection is overflowing and out of control. So the fact that I use any palette in my collection more than like 5 or 10 times, seriously, is a miracle. I love the shimmer shades in here, and I'm a sucker for a good shimmer, but Natasha knows what the hell she's doing with her shimmer formula. They're foiled and buttery, and they look beautiful on the lids. We've got these really gorgeous like coppery tones. We've got a duochrome at the bottom that shifts like copper and pink. I absolutely love this palette. I love all the looks that I've created with it. And I knew when I was looking through my collection and trying to figure out like where to place everything, when I saw this one, I was like, number 1. This is number 1. So I hope you guys enjoyed this ranking video. This was fun for me to do. A little bit of a change up from, you know, the normal application process and, you know, testing out new makeup. If you guys like this kind of video from me, please don't forget to give this one a big thumbs up. It lets me know that you like it, but it also lets YouTube know that you like it. And when you do that, it'll push this video out there for more people to see. I'm very grateful when you guys take the time to do that. If you've made it this far in the video, but you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, please don't forget to do that also before leaving. When you do, ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of my future uploads, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.